Hey guys, we can't leave E3 without doing just one more game demo, so I want to welcome the folks here from White Lotus Interactive. Thank you so much for coming by. And we're showing off a really cool game, one that I've had my eye on. It's called XING, The Land Beyond. So thanks a lot for coming, guys. And one of you, there's so many of you up here, I don't know who to look at. One of you, give me an overview of this game. Tell me what the sort of elevator pitch is.
Sure. It's a first-person puzzle adventure game set in the afterlife. So you play as basically just kind of yourself, you know, and it's very first person, so you're kind of going through, and you actually go into the stories of other characters who have also died since you're already dead in the afterlife. But it's kind of an interesting mystery game, so you're trying to solve puzzles and figure things out as you go.
That's great, and I mean, the game looks beautiful. It's running on Unreal Engine 4, I know that. And it's PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR, so you guys are doing the full VR gambit here. And I also want to point out, this is the entire studio right here, 3 people.
That's right.
That's great.
Here we are.
I mean, look at what we're seeing here. This looks gorgeous. Show us what we're looking at here. It looks like a poem.
Yeah, so to tell story in our game, we actually use poetry, which is something that's somewhat unique to our game. What you're seeing right here is actually the first level of the game, and in our game, you travel to other people's lives, like through their memories of their life. So these are other people who have died, and you get to kind of get a grasp of a important part of their existence. So in this case, you're following a story of a young girl who had washed onto a foreign sea. She got lost at sea, and now she's on a foreign land, and she doesn't know where she is. Kind of a survival story. And you kind of get to live through her experience to a certain degree and find out what's going on.
That's great. And I mean, this game looks really polished. I have to point that out. I mean, really, really nice looking game here.
Thank you.
I know down in the green room, you were sort of giving me a little bit of an update on where you guys are at. You made, sort of broad comparisons in a way to The Witness, which is, critically acclaimed, big smash hit for John Blow.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious, what are the mechanics in the game? What am I going to be doing as I play?
Go ahead, Jim.
Absolutely. One of the main puzzle mechanics that we use in the game a lot are these environmental powers. And we're going to get to that in a little bit, but first here we're doing a little Zelda quotes, as you can see, with the treasure chest opening. And you're collecting pieces of this person's past life and piecing together their story. So a lot of the puzzle mechanics do have to do with the story, but we take a lot of inspiration from other puzzle games like the Zelda series. We do physical-based puzzles that are sometimes pushing pillars or using buttons and levers, very Myst-esque puzzle mechanics.
For example, we're at like a crossroads here. You're kind of trying to figure out, well, wait, I need to get past this thing. Well, this is going to be a simple tutorial level here, but we're just going to use this very simple button to make this move. But later on, we might see these same mechanics in a much more complex, interconnected way. And that's the way we kind of build and make an exciting experience that's going to guide the player through.
Looks super cool, and I want to point out you guys have been working on this game for about 3 years now.
Yes.
And some of the initial concepts, it sounded like started when you met each other in school.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a real passion project for you guys.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we all took a class together in Level Design 1. And we've come a long way since then, hopefully. Yeah. But it was really fun, kind of getting together and making something that we all really enjoyed making and playing. And the fun part is that we actually still enjoy playing it after 3 years of working on it. So hopefully that's a good sign.
That's great. I mean, I think it's a great success story because I was talking with each of you about sort of what roles you fill, and you're all sort of doing a number of different things for the game. So I think it's a great success story for people out there looking to break into games, not knowing how to go about it. You guys all went to like a game school, or?
No, not exactly. We went to just a standard university, liberal arts school called Chapman University, and I, for example, graduated with a film degree and in sound and
art degree,
studio art.
Straight studio art.
You did.
I made up my major. I called it interactive media.
Sure,
but I started as music.
And here we are. We're at 3E3 presenting with Sony.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's really cool. It's really cool. And I mean, the game's gorgeous, and it is quite an accomplishment here. So tell us what we're seeing now.
So here we're going to actually unlock the very first environmental power in the game. And this is actually, we use these things, we call them power pads. And they're kind of a context-sensitive mechanic where in this level, when we stand on it, you're going to get a little loading bar here, and it will change the environment. And in this case, it's from night to day. Or day to night in this case. So you can use these at any time, and they kind of change the global state about the level.
Wow.
And you'll see when you get through this door here, well, this door was already not lit up. It wasn't active until it was night, because it's got a big moon on it. Getting past this, you'll see other things that have moons on them, and you got to figure out, oh, well, do I need to be in this area during the nighttime? Do I need to be there during the day? That kind of thing. And these powers, they start to compound in the later levels. So you see more and more powers kind of coming together, the other weather effects, usually on a completely global scale. So.
I see.
Right.
What other powers are going to be available outside of the sort of light and dark?
So we haven't revealed all the powers yet, but the one I can mention is rain, for example.
Okay.
They're using the rain might raise a water, like a lake, it might create a new lake that you didn't know was going to be there and kind of impede your progress, raising logs, putting out fires, that kind of thing.
Wow, that looks awesome. It's great lighting effects, and again, Unreal Engine 4, I mean, that's, top of the heap as far as these things go, some of the best graphics out there, and you guys are making great use of them. It's a looker. It's a definite looker.
Yeah, shout out to Epic. They've been a really big support to us.
That's great.
Yeah.
So.
Now, you guys have mentioned you will be on PlayStation VR. The game is coming out this fall. So tell me a little bit about what it's like making a VR game.
Go ahead, Jim.
Sure. So I put on the VR headset as often as I can. I love VR. I have the stomach for the earlier prototypes, but VR development has been a lot of fun, and I think the PlayStation VR is a great headset with the Move controllers, which we will be supporting.
Yeah.
You get a lot more immersion and interactivity with the environments. In XING, we have all these pick-upable objects, sticks, stones, coconuts you can pick up. Interacting with the game is a lot more natural.
Wow, that's cool.
And we designed all of our mechanics to work either in VR or non-VR. So, for example, all the poetry that you're reading was presented as a 3D object in front of you. So it's very natural to be able to pick things up in VR and look at that, where instead of putting it as like a subtitle or something like that.
Right. So with the PlayStation Move motion controllers in the VR mode, I'm curious about how you'll use them to interact with the environment. So what could you share about that?
Sure. So here's like an example. In this case, when we're playing on just a standard PS4, we lock objects to the screen. It's much like any other first-person shooter when you're trying to interact with objects. But you have the freedom of using your hands effectively with the Move controllers, where you can actually grab things, look at it, grab it, hold it, and you could toss it around. You could juggle if you wanted to. You can throw it.
Several objects.
It's a lot of freedom that you wouldn't normally have, that kind of be able to manipulate the environment all around you in a physical sense. And that's actually quite, it was quite eye-opening for myself when I was working on it, noticing fine detail in objects, to be able to hold it up and looking right at it.
Yeah.
Just something you just don't normally see in a game that's presented on a flat screen.
That's really cool. And one of the things that strikes me about the game is, there have been other games where your character is dead at the beginning of the game. Murdered Soul Suspect is one that comes to mind from a few years ago. That was a cool one, actually. But a lot of times they show the afterlife as like really menacing and scary, and I don't get that vibe from XING: The Land Beyond at all. Right. So tell me a little bit about how you came up with the game's artistic look and feel.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things we really put a lot of time and effort into is the environment and the atmosphere. And I mean, you actually do start off in a hub world, still not menacing like many other afterlives, but we kind of wanted to make it sort of peaceful and not so much like stressful, like if you're coming home from like a hard day at work or something. You just want to like chill, especially if you have a headset or something. You can just put it on, and the other environments that you go through are like rainforest or like a giant mountain lake, and you're kind of exploring these other people's like lives that they had, and so. It's almost kind of like their vision of what their life was. So it might not be exactly what it was, but it's their interpretation, which you kind of get to see. And it's kind of the more beautiful side of life.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that, kind of learning about these other characters and what kind of stories or where does that go?
So we tend to focus on sort of a moralistic standpoint. We like to tell a story that has some sort of meaning, something that's going to be meaningful to the player who's playing. So and our stories all revolve around death and kind of how we as humans experience death. And
interesting.
So there's a lot of I mean, there's some sad stories about loss, but there's also stories about hope and finding hope in impossible situations. So we are trying to create a very spiritual feeling.
Fascinating.
But also, try to tell give a sort of a purpose to what's going on.
This is really pretty, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm kind of distracted while you're talking here a little bit. So, I mean, yeah, which came first? Was it the mechanics and the gameplay, or was it the sort of spiritual, philosophical concept of kind of experiencing these other people's stories?
Well, typically we like to say that creativity comes from limitations, right? And when we were first starting, we didn't know much about how to make video games.
Yeah.
So we decided to try to pick a genre and a set piece that wouldn't be too terribly challenging for us, and we could just build from there. And that actually served, so to answer your question simply, it was the story and the spirituality element and the kind of serene feeling. Because we know Koriel can do a lot of great art. I've been working on music for a while, but we didn't have the game part together. But once we started working more on the game, it started evolving into a larger and larger piece, and here we are now. So.
Well, that's awesome. This one definitely has jumped up several notches in terms of games I'm looking at coming out of E3.
Thank you.
XING: The Land Beyond is coming out this fall for PS4 and PlayStation VR.
Yep. Correct.
That's great. And guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show and showing off some live gameplay.
All right,
Awesome.
thanks, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
PlayStation